Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. I want to preach on this subject. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep your eyes on Jesus. The great golfer, Arnold Palmer, recalled the final hole of the 1961 Masters tournament. He told him how he had a one-stroke lead going into the last hole, and he had just hit a very satisfying shot. He felt he was in pretty good shape. All he had to do was get his second shot on the green, two-putt, and win. That's all he had to do. Well, as he approached his ball, he saw an old friend standing over there at the edge of the gallery. And he motioned Palmer over and stuck out his hand and said, "Congratulations." Palmer shook his hand, and as soon as he did, he realized that he had lost focus. On the next two shots, he hit the ball into the sand trap. He then, out of the sand trap, he sculled it, and it went all the way across the green on the other side, down into the rough. He hit his third shot up on the green, and two-put it for a double bogey. The other guy, all he had to do was par to win the hole. And guess what he did? He parred. Palmer said, you don't forget a mistake like that. You just learn how to deal with it and become determined that you'll never, ever do it again. He said, I haven't done it again in over 40 years. Wow. I said that to say this. All of the failures in the Christian life can be traced to us losing our focus and taking our eyes off of Jesus.
That's right. Amen.
On different occasions in the book of Hebrews, Paul speaks about keeping our eyes on Jesus. In fact, in Hebrews 3:1 it says, wherefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, notice this word, I got it underlined. Consider the apostle and high priest of our profession, Christ Jesus. Now, the word consider is the Greek word katanoeo, and it means to observe fully. The idea is to fix and keep your eyes on Jesus, the high priest of our profession. In our text, in Hebrews 12:1 and 2, Paul speaks to us about the importance of keeping our eyes on Jesus. He admonishes us to keep looking. That's what the word looking, if you'll notice, it's got the ing on the end of it, which means you look today, you look tomorrow, you look next week, you keep on looking. And Paul says, keep on looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Look at the word looking. It's the Greek word aphorio, and it means to consider attentively, and it carries the idea of fixing your eyes on Jesus Christ. Now, the writer speaks of Jesus as the pioneer of our faith. The word author is a very interesting word. It's the Greek word archegos, and it suggests such concepts as leader, or originator, or founder, or pioneer. And the term was used to those who cut a path for their followers. Though, in fact, there is another word in the King James Bible that uses the same Greek word as the word captain. Look at it. In Hebrews 2:10, it talks about the captain of our salvation. As the pioneer of our faith, Jesus is the originator of our salvation, and he has cut the trail for us to follow. As the author of our faith, we are to keep our eyes on him, amen, because he is the author. Nobody else planned this gift of salvation but him. He is not only the author of our faith, he is also the finisher of our faith. The writer speaks of Jesus as the perfecter of our faith. It simply means He's the finisher of our faith. So the Lord Jesus is both the originator and the consummator of our faith. When He started, what He started, my friend, He's going to finish. Can I get an amen to that? What He started, He will finish. He not only cut a path for us to follow, but He will also lead us every step of the way home. Thank God for that. You are not on your own. I promise you, Jesus says that He will keep us. He will make sure that we get to the other side. Hallelujah. So as we follow Him, we must keep our eyes on Him. So as we look at our text tonight, I want us to notice what happens when we take our eyes off Jesus, when we lose focus of Jesus. The writer takes the picture of a runner that is running a race. And there are certain dangers, if you will, that are faced if we take our eyes off of Him. First, taking our eyes off Jesus is the source of spiritual defeat. Now, you watch what I'm saying tonight. Verse 1 tells us to lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. So the writer is reminding us of the possibility of being hindered or hurt as a runner who is running a race. His words are a reminder of the danger of being spiritually defeated. Notice with me how the writer describes what we should be. First, he says we should be a victorious runner. The picture here is, he tells us to lay aside every weight. Lay aside every weight. And the picture here is of a runner taking off his clothes. If you'll notice when someone is running, they ain't got much clothes on. You can't run in a race wearing a pair of breeches. That's why you see them in shorts and tank tops. If they wore anything else, it would hinder them in running. So they are removing every hindrance so that nothing will hinder or slow him down, enabling him to be a victorious runner. Now I'm telling you tonight, there are many things that can hinder us. Many things that can trip us from either running in the race or running a race well. There are hindrances that handicap us. It's those trailing garments that slow us down and may even trip us. Can you imagine a lady running in a long dress? She wouldn't make it very far. Well, can you imagine a track runner out there with a football uniform on? It's a known fact that a football player can run faster in shorts and t-shirts. But when he puts all that other stuff on, it slows him down. If they went out on the track and run with a football uniform on, I promise you they couldn't make the same time as running with just a pair of shorts or t-shirt on. Why? Because he's got all that equipment on. Or there are some running backs that can still run fast. But there are hindrances that handicap us. Those things that slow us down. Let me just mention a few. It slows us down. Doubt about your salvation can defeat you. I mean, there is no measure like the measure of having doubts about your salvation. I have seen many Christians defeated by the uncertainty of knowing they were saved. If you don't know for a fact that you're saved, before you leave this building tonight, you need to nail it down. Hey, I'm saved and I know it. This is not a I hope so stuff. I think so. No, this is I know so salvation. So doubts about your salvation can defeat you. I'll tell you something else. Unbelief causes many to stumble. I guarantee you, we would be shocked at how much unbelief there is in the church today. Unbelief. Don't think for one moment that God's people doesn't. They have a time of unbelief in their life. I've had it. I'm sure every Christian has had it at one time or another. In fact, Jesus went to a city, and the Bible says that he could not do many works there because of their unbelief. There's a lot of unbelief in the church today. The fear of taking God at his word. Trusting him with certain things and at certain times has caused many to stumble and fall. Many have missed the will of God because they just absolutely couldn't trust God because of their unbelief. I'm going to tell you something. The reason people, let me just throw this in. The reason people don't tithe is because of unbelief. Listen to me. They don't believe God can take care of them if they gave God 10%. They don't believe that. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm right. Unbelief is the reason people don't give and tithe in the church. I can't make it. Preacher, if I gave 10%. That's your problem. You don't believe. Unbelief. That don't cost you nothing. That's free tonight. Many people have missed the will of God because they would not trust God. We are robbed of untold blessings because of unbelief. Well, I felt that fly back at me. Let me mention again, tithing. Throw it back at me. Then there is pride. That has been the trailing garment that causes one to trip. D.L. Moody's advice was this: be humble or you'll stumble.
That's right.
That is so true. I was reading today about how when a victorious Roman general arrived back in Rome, he was given a hero's welcome and a triumphant parade of victory. Well, a philosopher was hired to ride beside him in the victory parade. Well, as the victor acknowledged the cheers of the crowd, the philosopher kept whispering in this victorious Roman general's ear, "You are moral. You are moral." Every time somebody would cheer, that philosopher whispered in it, "You are moral. Don't forget it. You are moral. You are moral." I'm going to tell you something, how we need to be reminded again and again that we are nothing but sinners saved by grace. You hear me? That's all we are. We ain't no better than anybody else. We ain't higher than anybody else. We ain't, listen folks, we better remember that we're nothing but sinners saved by grace. Bitterness is another thing that hinders us from running and has tripped many as they ran in their Christian life. I read the story about a man who was a foreman on a construction job. He was noted for his vulgarity and his ungodly disposition among the men that worked for him. Well, a Christian man on the job was grieved to hear so much cussing and vile language. One day he got enough courage to go speak to this foreman about this matter of cussing so much. Well, he received this story from the lips of this man. Listen to it. "I was once the pastor of the First Baptist Church in this city. Some trouble arose in the congregation of such magnitude that there seemed to be no solution. He said, I was distraught and provoked that I didn't know what to do. And that week I had had enough of the bickering and backbiting and backstabbing that I couldn't take. That Sunday morning I walked up to the pulpit and literally took my Bible and ripped it into shreds and threw it piece by piece at the congregation. He said, then I walked out of the pulpit, walked out of the church, and I vowed to never enter it again. And that is why I am the way I am today. Bitterness. I can relate to that preacher. I know how people do. People has caused bitterness to come in my heart too. Not to the point that I can get up here and tear my Bible apart and throw it at you. I ain't never got that bitter. But I've been pretty bitter. But many people are filled with bitterness. Bitter against a family member. Bitterness against a friend. Bitterness against a former employer or an acquaintance. Something happened between them and they feel like they were done wrong. They have never been able to get it out of their system. Some are even bitter at God. They blame God for something that happened, and they feel that if He really loved them, then He wouldn't allow that to happen. See, the goal of the Christian life is to run a victorious race. And we are to lay aside, remove from our life anything that hinders us as a runner and has the possibility of tripping us. Furthermore, notice with me that the writer describes a virtuous runner. I like this. We're not only admonished in verse 1 to lay aside every weight, but he said also the sin, which does so easily beset us. Notice he pinpointed it out, the sin. In other words, this way, put your finger on it and acknowledge it. The sin, which does so easily beset us. Another translates the words, the sin which always clings to us. Another translation, the sin that so easily entangles us. The word beset literally means to place around or stand around. It's very important. The idea here is that of a sinful inclination always surrounding us and are ever present. It reminds one of a ring of wild beasts in a jungle that encircle the campfire at night, each ready to pounce upon a careless victim. The writer speaks of the sin, referring to a particular sin that is ever present, right there with us, clinging to us, and a sin that so easily besets us or entangles us. I'm going to tell you something. This is a fact. For many Christians, it's not a multitude of things that defeats them.
Yeah, come on. That's right.
It's that one particular thing. It's that one thing that seems to just cling to us. It's the one sin that seems to be the biggest opponent in our life. To put it very simply, it's the one sin that keeps bringing you down. It's like a wild beast circling around you, just waiting for a moment of weakness in your life. You know, there are 1,001 things that you do not have a problem with. But then there's that one thing.
Yeah, that's good, preacher. Amen.
There's that one thing that is always tripping you, that one sin that is tripping you. Samson kept laying his head in the lap of Delilah until he finally failed in telling her the secret to his strength. Over and over and over, he kept laying his head in the lap. That one thing, that one sin is what you're going through. You do okay. I mean, you've confessed it to God more times than you can count. You're okay for a few days, maybe even a few weeks. But then it raises its ugly head again. And once again, you yield to the power. Its power over your life. For one sin, it may be alcohol. For one, it may be drugs. For another, it may be lust. For another, it may be temper. You put it in your life where it's at.
Come on.
Be sin. Put your finger on it.
Yeah, come on, preacher. That's good.
That's bringing you down. Hey, you got to keep on doing it every time. You lose focus and get your eyes on Jesus. You'll do it every time. This sin will vary from person to person. One person may not have a big problem as you do.
Yep.
With that one sin, But in each case, it's that one thing that so easily enstrangles us, so easily besets us, gets us off course. All because we lost focus and we've taken our eyes off Jesus. Peter would have never sunk in the ocean, and he kept his eyes on Jesus. But he took his eyes off Jesus and started looking at the waves. And as a result, the Bible says he began to sink. And you take your eyes off Jesus, I promise you, your next downfall is you're going to sink. You're going to sink. You're going down. You can't stay afloat with your eyes off Christ. There's no way. This is going to be part 1. I'm going to preach part 2 next week. Let me close in this. We are to run both a victorious and a virtuous race. To do so, we must, listen to me, we must keep our eyes on Jesus. To take our eyes off Jesus is to let the weights trip us and let our besetting sin trap us. Taking our eyes off Jesus is the source of spiritual defeat. Every time I have taken my eyes off Jesus, I have been defeated. Every single time. I can't stay strong, even as a pastor, if I take my eyes off Jesus Christ. I will be defeated, and Satan knows that. If you take your eyes off Jesus, I think that's why we see so many that's out of church today.
Yeah, come on.
They're spiritually defeated. You know why? They're taking their eyes off Jesus. They can say what they want to. I look them in the eye and say, I wish they was here tonight. I look them dead in the eye and say, you take your eyes off Jesus.
Yes. Amen, that's true.
You're defeated when you do that. Fix your eyes on Jesus and keep your eyes on Jesus. If you don't, you're going to be defeated spiritually every single time. You know why? He is the secret to being victorious. He is the source of being victorious. Glory to his name. And to take your eyes off him for a moment is to expose yourself to your weaknesses and open yourself up to spiritual defeat. Happens every time. But preacher, I don't want to hear no buts. We got too many butts in the church now.
That's right.
But preacher, no. Get off your butts, amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Start thinking positive. For God's sake. I want to preach that one now. Get off your butt.
Yeah. I like that.
Remember that God would have never commanded us to lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily besets us or enstrangles us if it wasn't possible to do. Why in the world would God tell us to do something that he knows we can't? Well, that would be kind of stupid, wouldn't it? If I took Libby outside, now Libby, jump over this church building. If she didn't do it, I'd beat the living daylights out of her. Why would I ask her to do something I know she can't do? Well, what about God?
Come on, amen.
Quit blaming God. He doesn't ask you to do anything you can't do. If he says to lay aside every weight and the sin which so it does beset us, then we can do it. Don't say you can't. Knock you naked out of your clothes. Don't say you can't. The secret is keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep your eyes on Jesus.
Yes, that's good.
Say it with me. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Say it again. Keep your eyes on Jesus. What?
Keep your eyes on Jesus.
What?
Keep your eyes on Jesus.
Holler like you have His.
Keep your eyes on Jesus.
Hallelujah.
Keep my eyes.
All right, women. Say it like you're hollering at your husband at home. Now, I know you do worse than that. Come on.
Keep your eyes on Jesus.
Come on, women.
Keep my eyes on Jesus.
What?
Keep my eyes
Come
on
on, ladies. Let me hear
Keep
you.
your eyes on Jesus.
All right, men, now you, like you're hollering at your wife. Keep my eyes on you. Hey, men out there.
Y'all don't want that. They don't do
Is
that.
that because the men holler loud than the women? Hallelujah. Good to have fun in God's house. Keep your eyes on Jesus. You won't fail. You keep your eyes on Him. Father, I love you.